Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sake Revolution. This is America's very first sake podcast, and I am your host, John Puma. You may see some of my adventures over on the Sake Notes, but I'm also the administrator at the Internet Sake Discord and the lead mod at Reddit's r/sake community.
And I'm your host, Timothy Sullivan. I'm a sake samurai, I'm a sake educator, as well as the founder of the Urban Sake website. And every week, John and I will be here tasting and chatting about all things sake and doing our best to make it fun and easy to understand.
So, Tim, what's going on this week?
Well, you know, John, I think love is in the air. It's mid-February. You know what that means.
It means that the price of flowers is greatly inflated.
Well, it is Valentine's Day coming up.
Yes, that.
That day we all love to hate.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly don't dislike it. It's like so transparently like a fake commercial thing. But at the same time, it's nice to be able to tell your loved ones that you love them.
Yeah, it's great. Have you ever been in Japan for Valentine's Day?
Actually, Tim, one time I happened to be in Japan on February the 14th in 2020.
All right. Well, yeah. You probably know then that Valentine's Day in Japan is a little different than it is here. Do you want to explain what you understand about Valentine's Day in Japan versus here?
Well, yes. Well, I had heard that it was a bit different. I didn't really experience the difference, being that I was there with my wife, so I didn't have Japanese women giving me the gift of chocolate, which is apparently the vibe there.
It's more than a vibe. It's a rule.
It's a rule. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So my understanding, though, is that there's a couple of different ways this can go down depending on the woman's relationship with you. How in-depth is your knowledge of this sort of thing?
I lived in Japan a few different times, and I was there for Valentine's Day, and I was the recipient of chocolate. The key difference between Japan and the U.S. is on February 14th in Japan, women are expected to give men chocolate, which is kind of different from the way we do things here. So that's a little bit of a difference, that women are supposed to be gifting on Valentine's Day, but the men do not get off scot-free, right?
No, they don't. I've heard of this.
Yeah, they have a day in March 14th, 1 month later, called White Day. And men are expected to reciprocate. And anyone who gave them chocolate, they have to give chocolate back.
Oh, and it's specifically the people who gave you chocolate.
Yes, if you don't reciprocate, that's a kind of a diss. That is not nice.
That's messed up. I guess it's kind of like a consolidated version of the thing they did in grade school, where you'd give Valentines to the other people in your class, and sometimes they didn't give you one back. And I was like,
yes,
that didn't go
hurtful.
Well. Hurtful. Yes, it really is. It's rough. It's rough to be left out.
There's different grades of giving for women on Valentine's Day. The most common, and I think the most hated, is called giri.
Most hated.
Most hated, yes. It's called giri choco.
Giri choco. Oh, okay. So choco, I'm assuming, is the chocolate. What's the giri part?
Giri means obligation. So it's an obligation chocolate. This is chocolate that women would give to their bosses, male friends, anyone they feel kind of obligated to, work colleagues, and it's not from the heart, so to speak.
No, it doesn't sound like it would be. Anything with obligation in it is inherently not heart related.
Yeah. Then there's homemade choco, which is that's kind of true love chocolate. That's kind of chocolates that are often handmade, and they're for your significant other, boyfriend, husband.
Handmade?
Yes, that's a big trend.
So if you give your significant other perhaps obligation chocolate level chocolate, that's sort of a diss also?
I don't know. We're really getting in the weeds here. There's also tomo choco. Tomodachi means friends. So if you want to give your female friend chocolate as just a nice gift, you can do tomo choco. So that's between friends.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. And I was actually the recipient of giri choco when I lived in Japan.
Oh, wow.
I lived in rural Japan. This is when I was staying in Yamaguchi, and I went to the same 7-Eleven almost daily. It was the only place within walking distance for me to buy food. And I lived there for a month, and I was in this store
We're going
every
to
day.
dig into that in another episode, Tim. I need to know more about you living off of 7-Eleven food.
It was not the best, but I was going there every day. And then on February 14th, I was checking out with my food, and the female convenience store worker, probably 20 years old, handed me a Valentine's Day chocolate, and I thought it was so sweet. And the thing is, I left before March 14th, so I could not reciprocate. So she's probably still mad about it.
So did you know about the custom ahead of time, or were like when she handed you this chocolate, were you like, hey, wait a minute, lady, I'm spoken for?
No, I did not know about the custom. I had no idea what was going on, why she was giving me chocolate, but it was definitely Giri Choco for sure. Obligation chocolate. I was probably their best customer.
Aw.
Yeah, so...
well, you know.
So when I think of Valentine's Day in Japan, I always think of that rural Yamaguchi 7-Eleven.
So that's all of them, though. We've got our Giri for the obligation.
Obligation chocolate.
We got our Hanmei for the significant other. We've got the Tomo for your Tomodachis, for your friends.
Yeah.
And is that it?
Well, there's one more, which is my favorite. That's
okay. I'm ready.
Jibun Choco. And that's buying chocolate for yourself.
Oh, so it's treat yourself chocolate.
Treat yourself.
All right.
Jibun
That
Choco.
sounds like fun. I like treating my. I do that when it's not Valentine's Day.
Me too. It's pretty much every day for me.
How about that?
Every day is a Jibun Choco for me. Now there is a
Jibun Choco, Jibun Sake, Jibun... lots of things.
Yeah. So there is a particular kind of chocolate in Japan that is very popular that a lot of people associate with Japan. So when you think of Japan, you think of sushi, you think of sumo, you think of Hello Kitty, and what else?
KitKats.
KitKats, that's right.
I feel like the answer was supposed to be KitKats. I had other things, but I was kind of like, wait a minute. Clearly, this is a setup. No,
the answer is not Ninja. It's KitKats.
No, it's not. But yeah, no, KitKats are bizarrely huge there, I want to say.
Oh my God. You see them everywhere. And the thing is, the flavors are so crazy, aren't they?
I mean, for us.
Strange for us.
I imagine for them, these are completely normal. But yeah, I think that they are interesting flavors. I want to say a few years ago, I don't think they do it anymore, but a few years ago, there were a couple of sake flavors, which was a lot of fun. Honestly, they tasted like white chocolate, but they smelled like sake, which, kind of gets you in the mood.
Yeah. Their sake flavored Kit Kat came out in 2016, and I was desperate to get my hands on them. I remember I went on a trip to Japan, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to try these. And you're right. They tasted like chemically white chocolate, but they had 0.8% alcohol in them. So there was just like a little bit of alcohol. And they were reminiscent of sake, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, especially that aroma was like, it was such a really good like ginjo aroma.
They did.
Like you open up the little package, you're like, whoa, this doesn't belong in chocolate. I don't understand. It was really interesting. It was fun. But yeah, and then you taste it, it's just like, oh, this is kind of white chocolate.
Yeah, so they have all these wild varieties of flavors. And do you know why Kit Kats became so popular? It's kind of like they won the marketing lottery in Japan.
That sounds good, but how did they win the marketing lottery?
Well, there's a set phrase in Japanese, kitokatsu. Kitokatsu. It kind of sounds like kitokato.
Yes.
And kitokatsu means you will surely win. And it's a saying of encouragement that you can give to someone. And it's often used when people are going to be taking exams. So what happened is people started sending Kit Kats to their friends and people taking exams, whether it was college entrance exams or different things like that. And if you pick up any Kit Kat and look at the bottom side in Japanese Kit Kat, there's this grid space for you to write a message. And these are meant to be gifted. And you usually gift them to people who are taking exams or up against some challenge. And kitokatsu, which sounds like kitokato.
Well, when you said like kitokatsu, I was thinking of like katsu, like like katsu curry, or like chicken katsu, pork katsu. So that's interesting and very fortuitous for the
kitokato.
Very fortuitous for Nestle.
Yes.
A happy coincidence that I'm sure this worked out nicely for them.
Yes. Well, for today, John, will you be my Valentine?
For the moment, yes.
Okay.
I think. And I don't think this is Tomo Choco. This is not Giri Choco.
This is Tomo Choco, John.
Yes, definitely Tomo Choco.
So I received a wonderful selection of off-the-wall KitKat flavors from my sister, and I shared some with John. So John and I both have a selection of crazy KitKats in front of us. And for Valentine's Day, to celebrate the spirit of Tomo Choco, we're going to be tasting crazy KitKats along with our sake.
I said I wanted to get more into pairing. This is not what I had in mind.
This is not part of your resolution?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's fun. We're going to have a good time with it, but this is going to be a little weird, I think. I think it's going to be a little funky.
You and I both picked different sakes to use in our KitKat pairing.
Yes, our KitKat pairing.
So before we open any of the KitKats, why don't we introduce our sakes? You can tell me what you've selected, and let's taste them on their own first before we do any pairing. How about that?
Sure. So since in my mind, I think having KitKats and sake is a little funky, a little out there, a little different, I decided to use a sake that is itself quite a bit funky. It is from our friends over at Kinoshita Shuzo over in Kyoto. They make the Tamagawa brand of ambient house yeast sakes. So lots of funky stuff. And this one is called Tamagawa Time Machine. It is classified as a Junmai, although you often see it in big letters after that. They'll say, this is a dessert sake. It's a Kimoto, like many of their varieties. It uses Kitanishiki rice, polished down to 88%. You heard that right, 88%. The ABV is 11 to 12. The acidity is 3.2. And you might think that's really high. And I will tell you that it is just going to be a drop in the bucket next to the sake meter value, that measure of dry to sweet, of -45, -45. Now, I've also seen other numbers. I've seen 38. I've seen things in the 80s. But I think the most common number I've seen was -45. So this is going to be a funky sake to go with a funky pairing.
So you're just rolling the dice here.
I'm rolling. Yes, exactly. I go big or go home.
All right. Well, I picked out what I thought was a Valentine's-y kind of sake. I'm going to go with the Amabuki brand, and we've had them on our show before. They specialize in flour yeast or hanakobo. And the one that I've picked out for today is Gin no Kurenai Junmai. That is often called the Pink Lady. It's from Amabuki Shuzo, and it is a Junmai grade sake, polished down to 55%. And they're using a rice that is a akamai, or one of these black or red rices, the ancient grains. It's called Saga no Hana. Okay. And we are, again, in Saga Prefecture on Kyushu Island. The flour yeast that they use is the strawberry flour yeast, acidity of 1.6, and the SMV is +2. So this has a real tart sweet thing going on that's really fun. And the most amazing thing about the sake I picked is that Saga no Hana rice, that red rice, gives it a rosé color. So it's very apropos for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that is some Valentine's Day looking sake.
Okay, well, let's get these sakes in the glass and taste them on their own first before we get to our pairing.
Sure thing. So I've got my time machine in the glass, and let's see. It is very caramel. That is the word. It looks like liquid caramel.
Yeah, it looks very syrupy.
Oh, yes, it is. It looks almost like whiskey. Like it's very, very, very dark. And then for aroma, wow. There is a little bit of that whiskey nose that I do like on these older sakes. And a lot of that caramel and sweetness that's in there. Cocoa. This might go well with some of the more chocolatey KitKats with that nose. And now I'm going to give it a little bit of a taste. Yeah, this is a very dessert sake, and I would love to pour this over some ice cream one day. This is wonderful. It's got your cocoa notes, little coffee notes, caramel, like it's all there. It's a little mound of sweetness also. It's really fantastic. This is really good. It's not my wheelhouse. And I had to go outside of my wheelhouse to find something I was going to go with chocolates, but this is spectacular. I'm really happy with this.
All right. Well, I have the Pink Lady, the Amabuki Gin no Kuranai Junmai, and let's give that a smell. It has a little bit of a fruity aroma to it, a little bit of sharpness there, but just brightness, and it smells like watermelon-y, a little bit like watermelon. So
that's a good flavor to have in a sake.
It's really interesting aromatics. I'm going to give it a taste now. It's really delicious. It has kind of a sweet tart thing going on. So there's sweetness up front, and it finishes with some acidity and a little bit of tartness. Really engaging, but kind of a different overall mouthfeel and profile from a standard Amabuki sake. So the unique rice that they're using really comes across on the palate, and it kind of doesn't compute with other flavors from standard sake rices. So it has such an engaging color, like looking at it normally when you look at sake in the glass, it's like, looks like water and there's not much to see. But this is like such a beautiful blush color. It's really, really nice. All right. So we have our sakes chosen, and you and I have a random selection of different flavors. So
yes,
I'm going to let you go first. You have your smoky, rich dessert Koshu style sake from Tamagawa, and you have a selection of KitKat in front of you. So which one do you want to pick to pair first?
So I saw this and I needed to immediately pick it out. This is the KitKat Otona no Amasa, which is getting translated in Google as adult sweetness.
Adult sweetness.
Now, this is the white version. So I'm assuming it's going to be a white chocolate. I'm assuming adult sweetness is probably a little bit less sweet. It's probably a little bit more like a little more mellow, probably maybe a little more cocoa-y. I don't know. We're going to find out. This is what pops into my head. So when I open it up, it is, in fact, white chocolate, but there is some bits of chunks of something in the chocolate, some dark-colored chunks in the chocolate. I'm very curious as to what that's going to translate into. It smells a lot like white chocolate, though. It has got that really, really sweet white chocolate aroma. And I'm going to have a quick bite here. All right, sir, this is delicious. I could have next time just get me a whole box of this. This is great. Really, really nice. It tastes a lot more mellow than the aroma. If you like white chocolate, it's got a little bit of white chocolate in there. And there's a good bit of like traditional cocoa counterbalancing it. It's really, really nice. It's not overly sweet. It makes you think it's going to be overly sweet and then surprises you by being very subtle.
Okay, John, I was curious about the sweetness for adults, and this is a line of KitKats geared towards adults, and the one you have is white chocolate with finely crushed black biscuits or cookies, creamy white chocolate, and it's made with milk from Hokkaido, Japan.
Oh, that's lovely. And so those chunks then are the cookie.
Yes.
Oh my God. This is why I love this so much. It's really good.
Well, how is it pairing with the sake?
Well, we're going to find out in a moment. Let's see. Well, the sake mellows out the KitKat even more because the sake is so big.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I go back to the sake, it's got a whole new level of excitement to it. This is a good pairing. This is a good pairing. I am a fan of this pairing.
All right.
This is an A+ pairing for me, Tim. We need to find out what you've got going on.
So adult sweetness.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
Sweetness.
Adult sweetness.
White chocolate.
The white chocolate.
A+.
A+ with Tamagawa Time Machine.
All right. Okay. I'm looking at my selection, and I have a certain one that my attention is drawn to. And I have KitKat that is flan flavored.
Flan.
Flan.
Okay.
Flan is like, a caramel pudding.
Yeah.
And I like flan, so I'm going to try flan with the amabuki.
All right.
Okay, opening up, it looks very much like white chocolate. Oh my gosh. It smells like caramel flan.
Oh, wow, really?
Oh my gosh.
Wow. So kind of like with the sake, they're nailing the aroma.
The aroma is on point.
That's great.
So now we're going to taste it.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I'm getting more caramel than flan, but
okay.
But it tastes very good. I just can't escape the kind of chemically overtones to it. It doesn't taste like natural flan. It tastes a little bit like white chocolate and caramel, and it's very good, but it tastes a little chemically. But we're going to pair it with our rosé sake here. Let me give it a sip.
I'm very curious how this is going to go down.
Not the best pairing I've ever had.
Oh. So you want to give this one a grade?
Maybe a B-.
All right, a B-. Now, what impact did the sake have on the KitKat and vice versa?
Yeah, the KitKat is so sweet. And it drained all the sweetness out of the sake and made it taste a little sharp. So the alcohol really came forward a little more. So this wasn't an A+ pairing flan KitKat and the...
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but we're going to do another round.
Yeah. I got a feeling the flan would go really well with this Tamagawa, though.
Yes, I think the flan would go really well with yours. So, so John, back to you. We should do another one. This is too much fun.
I should. So I'm going to go a little bit crazy here, I think. And I'm going to have the apple cinnamon.
Ooh.
I think this is going to be something that a little outside of my comfort zone.
Oh, guess what?
You have an apple
cinnamon? I have an apple cinnamon too.
Oh, well then. This is how we're going to go. We're going to both do the apple cinnamon and pair it with our sakes.
We can't pass up the opportunity if we both have it, So
let's get this apple cinnamon opened up and put it in the glass. Wait a minute. No, we don't put this in the glass. All right. So, whoa. All right. So I got it open. And the first thing I got assaulted with was the aroma of cinnamon and apples.
Oh my God. It smells like a Yankee candle.
It's like, pow.
It smells like a Yankee candle.
It does.
Oh my God. That's so strong.
It is. It's like kind of off-white, kind of gray almost.
It's like a grayish, purplish gray color.
Yeah. All right. So let's get this, let's get a bite of this one. Tim?
Not bad.
It kind of tastes like apple and cinnamon.
Yeah.
The finish is the cinnamon really settles into that finish. I am very impressed by this. I am surprised that I like this.
It has really distinct apple pie vibes, doesn't it?
Yeah, as long as you like a lot of cinnamon in your apple pie. But there's a lot of I do like cinnamon, so this is like it's saving it for me because I'm not a big apple pie person.
This is an apple pie that fell into the cinnamon bowl, and
if I were making an apple pie, that's what I would do. So this works out really nicely.
All right.
So now let's pair it with our respective sakes.
Yes. For me, it actually is okay because this is not as sweet. This apple cinnamon is more of a spicy flavor. And it brings out the subtle sweetness that's in my sake. And it balances quite well, actually. Yeah, so I'm much more pleased with this than the flan. How about you?
Well, unfortunately, I think I've got the B-, B+ pairing this time. It's not bad. It works, but it doesn't sing like that last one, the adult sweetness white. It felt like it was made for the sake. It was so perfect. And this, I think the spice really just doesn't go with the cinnamon clashes a bit with the caramel and the cocoa of the time machine. They're not in sync. Again, they're not bad together. It's just not ideal. But this was a fun little experiment, Tim. I have to say, this has been exciting.
Okay, John. Well, I'm going to do one more here. I have a Marugoto cacao. This is a 72% cacao. And
that sounds good.
I love chocolate so much, so I'm going to open this up and see. Ooh.
Oh.
Okay, so it's a dark chocolate. Oh my gosh. It smells like when you're making chocolate chip cookies and you have those semi-sweet or dark chocolate chips. It smells like dark chocolate. So this is for dark chocolate lovers. I think this would pair fantastically with your sake, but I'm going to give it a taste.
Yeah, it's getting a little hot in here, Tim. That sounds really good.
Okay. It tastes just like a 73% cacao chocolate bar from a chocolate shop. So it's really good.
But with like the wafers.
With the wafers in the middle.
Oh, that sounds really good.
It pairs really well with the sake.
Fantastic. Yeah. I was a little worried. I thought that maybe it would be more something that would go with mine, but I'm glad to hear.
I think it's the lack of sweetness. I think the ones that are not as sweet pair really well with this sake. The first one I had, the flan that was overly sugary, it just didn't blend well. But this is a bitter style, semi-sweet or dark chocolate, and that bitterness brings out the sweetness in my sake and balances it really well.
Nice. Oh, is this going to lead to a spin-off show, Tim? Where we're doing KitKat Revolution?
Well, I did read that there were over 300 flavors of KitKat in Japan.
I believe
it too.
100%.
So what did you think? Does this leave you feeling hopeful about Valentine's Day?
In Japan, you mean? If I get to collect a bunch of different KitKats, I'm going to Japan every February. Yes. I have to say, like my takeaway from this has been, number one, I really enjoy the time machine a lot more than I thought I would. And number two, adult sweetness.
Adult sweetness, yes.
Adult sweetness is my jam, apparently. It's so good. It was fantastic. And you know what? By itself, the apple and cinnamon KitKat was much better than I thought it was going to be. I don't know, I was a little trepidatious about that one, but that was really, really tasty. But the adult sweetness is the king.
Yeah, my takeaway is that some flavors, I think to achieve some strange, unusual flavors in these candies, they have to resort to chemicals. And sometimes they do taste chemically. But other ones tasted very pure and very much like what they were. The cinnamon was really cinnamon and apple and didn't really taste that chemically to me.
Yeah, I think it's with all these different flavors, you're going to have some situations where they get to it real naturally and real easily, and other times when they have to cheat a little bit. But it worked out. Like these are, the ones we tasted tonight, I think worked out pretty well.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. And I know you have a few extra flavors. What are some of the other flavors you have there that we're not going to taste on air today?
So I had shortlisted a few, and not necessarily because I was really excited about them. There is one I'm very excited about that I'm holding for myself, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. I took out the chocolate orange flavor. I loathe chocolate covered oranges. So I figured I would take out the KitKat and just confront my fears. But then ended up going a different route. We got pumpkin pie and cheesecake. Those were also on my short list. But the one I'm saving for myself is called For Coffee Break, and it's meant to be paired with coffee. So tomorrow I'm going to have this with my morning coffee and hopefully be a very smiley, happy morning person. Normally I'm not a very happy morning person.
That's good. Well, I'm glad you have a few extra to string into your other beverages as well outside of sake.
Yes. And Tim, thank you so much for giving me these. This was very, very nice of you. Your Tomo Choco is very much appreciated.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, John, this was so much fun. Who doesn't love KitKat? Who doesn't love sake? This is a win-win proposition here, this show.
The two great tastes that sometimes taste great together.
Yes, absolutely. So great to taste with you. And I also want to say hello and thank you to our patrons. If you'd like to support our show, you can visit our Patreon at patreon.com/sakerevolution.
And in addition to KitKats and stuff like that, you know that you can get swag from our shop, Sake Revolution swag for the important people in your life. You can do Giri swag, Honmei swag, Tomo swag, and of course, Jibun swag.
Yes.
Right now, it's mostly t-shirts and stickers, but down the line, we're going to have some new and interesting items. So keep a lookout on that store page. You can find it at sakerevolution.com.
And you can also visit sakerevolution.com to read our show notes. We'll have all the information on our sakes and on our KitKats. And also, you can see a full transcript of each and every episode. So be sure to check out our website, too.
So, without any further ado, please grab a KitKat. Remember to pair your KitKats with sake. And kanpai!